Hey everyone. Today I have a story that's bound to resonate with you on both emotional and thought-provoking levels. Let's dive into the life of James Park, a man who faced an unexpected brush with death back in 2016 due to a brain aneurysm. However, what he encountered beyond this life was quite the revelation. Instead of the anticipated scenes of light or celestial beings, James was enveloped in profound darkness. You might find his discoveries about himself and the nature of existence astonishing. But before we jump in, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and ring that notification bell so you won't miss out on any future content. Now, prepare yourself for a gripping and enlightening journey that may leave you in awe. I'm James Park, and I want to tell you about an experience that reshaped my understanding of my life and the world around me. But first, let me share a bit about who I was before everything changed. I grew up in Asheville, North Carolina, a quaint town nestled near the stunning Appalachian Mountains. From early on, I felt a strong desire to help others, which led me to pursue two distinct yet deeply connected paths: nursing and pastoral ministry. As a nurse, my role was to ensure people's physical health, alleviating pain and treating injuries while being a source of comfort during their toughest times. On the other hand, as a pastor, I aimed to nurture people's spirits, offering guidance to those who felt lost and providing hope amid life's challenges. It was incredible how these two roles complemented each other, allowing me to support individuals in a holistic manner, tending to both their bodies and spirits. My Christian faith has always been at the heart of my journey. Each decision and step along the way was influenced by my firm belief in a benevolent and compassionate God. This was more than a mere belief system. It propelled me to engage with my community, extend a helping hand to those in distress, and be a light in an often dark world. Together with my wife Sophia, we crafted a life filled with purpose and affection. We raised our children with the values we cherished: kindness, honesty, and the importance of serving others. Our home was a sanctuary of warmth and love, a place where we practiced our faith daily rather than just preached about it. Reflecting on this, I can genuinely say that I lived a life that many would view as rich and fulfilling. It was a typical Tuesday morning on November 15, 2016, when everything changed. The day started like any other. I got up around 5:30 a.m., greeted by the crisp autumn air of Asheville, North Carolina, flowing in through the slightly cracked window. Birds chirped happily outside, ushering in a new day. I brewed my usual cup of coffee and settled in at the kitchen table for my morning scriptures and prayer, a routine that provided me comfort each day. However, as I immersed myself in reflection, a faint discomfort poked at my right temple. At first, I shrugged it off. Headaches were just part of my hectic life, right? But this twinge didn't fade. Instead, it morphed into something considerably worse, growing more intense as the minutes ticked by. By 6:15 a.m., the headache had taken on a life of its own. I stood up to grab a painkiller, but just as I reached for the medicine cabinet, I was hit by an unexpected wave of dizziness. The room spun around me, and I found myself bracing against the wall to stay upright. Suddenly, it dawned on me that something serious was happening. As a nurse, my training kicked in. I started running through the symptoms in my head: the throbbing pain, the disorientation, and that unsettling pressure building in my skull. Everything pointed to a terrifying possibility: a brain aneurysm. My heart raced as I recalled my family history. My father had passed away at the age of 50 due to a ruptured aneurysm, and now it felt as though I was facing the same fate. This wasn't just about a medical incident. It was the beginning of a profound journey that would shake everything I believed in: the purpose of my life, my relationship with God, and ultimately, my very sense of self. It's a story of transformation and rediscovery, one that challenges faith and uncovers the profound connections we all share. Buckle up. It's a tale of death and rebirth that goes far beyond what you might expect. I had always been mindful of the potential dangers, yet I never really expected it to happen to me. As I called out for Sophia, my voice faltered, a lump forming in my throat. Panic threatened to overwhelm me, but my years of training in nursing and my unwavering faith steadied me. I took a deep breath, trying to rein in both my heart rate and blood pressure, fully aware that stress could worsen the situation. That's when everything changed. A violent, sudden crack echoed inside my head, as if something had shattered. The pain surged, becoming almost too much to bear. My vision blurred, and I could taste iron in my mouth. It hit me, an aneurysm had ruptured. In that instant, certainty washed over me. I was dying. Time slowed, and an odd sense of serenity wrapped around me. Thoughts of Sophia and our children drifted in. They were still asleep, blissfully unaware of the chaos just a few steps away. My heart ached at the idea that they might discover me like this, lifeless. With every ounce of strength I could muster, I crawled towards the phone. I forced myself to dial 911, but my words came out as a jumbled whisper. I hoped those few murmured phrases would be enough to send help. After that, all that remained was sitting on the floor, back against the wall, waiting. As the darkness began to close in, I whispered one last prayer. I didn't ask for my own salvation. Instead, I pleaded for my family. I prayed for Sophia to find the strength to face what lay ahead, for my children to be guided in my absence, and above all, that they wouldn't have to see me like this. Slowly, the world around me began to fade. Sounds became distant echoes, colors bled away, and I felt an overwhelming heaviness in my body. The last thought I held on to was one of gratitude for the life I had lived, the love I had known, and the faith that had always carried me. And just like that, everything slipped into darkness. The shift from awareness to whatever came next was jarring, like someone had flipped a switch. One moment, I was sitting on the kitchen floor, fighting to stay aware, and the next, I was immersed in a profound, impenetrable blackness. In that initial instant, if I could even call it that, for time seemed to evaporate, I found myself lost. No light, no sound, no touch. It felt as though my senses had been turned off all at once. A strange quiet enveloped me, replacing the excruciating pain that had been my constant companion just moments ago. I sensed my body, yet I struggled to move it. My attempts to speak felt futile. I couldn't hear myself at all. Even when I tried to open my eyes, it didn't matter. The surrounding darkness was unchanged, whether they were open or shut. It was as if I had transformed into something beyond the physical, merely a conscious presence floating in this vast void. Then, it struck me like a lightning bolt. I was no longer alive. The aneurysm had done its work, and I was gone. Oddly enough, instead of fear, a wave of calm washed over me, almost as if a part of me had accepted this fate long before. As my thoughts adjusted, I found myself waiting, though for what, I couldn't say. Was it that light at the end of a tunnel, like those tales of near-death experiences? Or maybe angels would come to welcome me? Perhaps I would see Jesus, hand outstretched, inviting me to a paradise beyond. But as moments passed, if moments were even a concept here, nothing stirred in the darkness. It remained quiet, endless, and immutable. Time felt irrelevant. There was no sign of movement, no sense of hours slipping by, just an infinite stillness surrounding me. In the absence of sensory input, I started to sift through my memories, like a film on replay. I thought back to my youthful days in Asheville, the journey of my faith, sharing tender moments with Sophia, and the joy of watching my children grow. Each recollection lingered vividly, as real as if they were unfolding right before my eyes. I recalled the countless sermons I had given about the afterlife, comforting bereaved families with promises of a joyful reunion in heaven. But now, in this eerie void, I wondered, where was that heaven? Where were the golden streets, the gates that sparkled with pearls, or the majestic throne of the divine? Feeling unmoored, I grappled with a wave of confusion, not fear. Had I really been mistaken all along? Were the foundational beliefs I had held onto merely fabrications? I attempted to pray, but my words felt lost in the vast expanse around me, echoing into the silence. No answers came, no divine reassurance. For the first time, a profound loneliness pierced through me. Whatever this existence was, if time still flowed here, it stretched on endlessly. Minutes, hours, or an infinite stretch of eternity could have passed without me knowing. The only constant was the heavy, enveloping silence and the darkness that surrounded me, leaving me utterly alone with my thoughts. At one point, I found myself questioning whether this was really it. Was death just a never-ending plunge into an empty abyss? It was a thought that shook me, yet there was an odd comfort in it too. There was no agony, no hardship, but also no happiness or direction. While my thoughts drifted through these heavy reflections, I became aware of something surprising. Even amidst this deep void, I still felt like myself. My consciousness persisted. My thoughts and memories were all still there. And in that moment of clarity, a glimmer of hope sparked within me. If I was still a conscious being, then maybe, just maybe, there was more to this experience than met the eye right now. So with that little flicker of optimism, I thought about staying open to whatever might unfold next, even if it was more of this dark emptiness. After all, death had already shown me that reality could be quite different from what I had envisioned while alive. Engulfed in that endless darkness, my mind started racing, trying to grasp the reality I found myself in. As someone who had always leaned on faith, I really hoped for a sign from above, maybe a glimpse of God or a word from Jesus. I recalled tales of people who had near-death experiences. They described dazzling lights, reunions with those who had passed away, and visions of paradise. Some even spoke of being embraced by Jesus, surrounded by pure love and peace beyond description. That's what I was hoping for, what I yearned for. And yet, nothing came. With each second that ticked by, or whatever second felt like in that timeless existence, I awaited a shift. Would the darkness suddenly give way to bright heavenly gates? Was I about to hear a choir of angels or feel a warm touch from a divine presence? But the silence and darkness just hung there, unyielding. As time dragged on, my hope turned into worry. Where was God? Where was the reassurance of Jesus? Why was I left in this desolate void? Those questions echoed in my mind, without answers. I started to ponder if I was facing judgment. Had I fallen short in my life on earth? Was I being punished for something I hadn't confessed or been forgiven for? The thought sent chills down my spine. Throughout my existence, I had endeavored to embody the teachings of Christ, aiming to represent faith and love. The mere notion that I might have failed in some essential way was almost too much to bear. In the stillness of my thoughts, I found myself reflecting on my life, searching through the layers for moments of failure, unresolved mistakes, anything that could shed light on why I was feeling the way I was. It struck me, the times I had lost my patience with my kids, or when I let my judgment get the better of me. There were also those moments when my pride overshadowed any humility I might have had. But could these imperfections truly justify being cast into this endless loneliness? An unsettling fear started to creep in, though it wasn't the physical kind. I no longer had a body to sense that familiar rush of adrenaline. No, this was something far deeper, an existential dread that gnawed at me. What if everything I held dear was merely a mirage? What if there wasn't a kind, loving presence waiting for me on the other side? What if eternity was just this, an endless stretch of darkness, silence, and isolation? I tried to shake off these heavy thoughts. It felt like I was a castaway in choppy waters, desperately clinging to my faith as if it were a fragile piece of driftwood. I recited verses from the Bible inside my head, promises of salvation, life everlasting. Yet in that vast emptiness, those words echoed hollowly, failing to reach me. Time seemed to lose all meaning. Minutes? Eons? Who could tell? The fact that I had no grasp on time or space made everything more unsettling. Eventually, a realization hit me. Continuing in anguish wouldn't help my situation at all. If this was my new reality, then wallowing in despair would change nothing. It became essential to accept what I was now facing, no matter how hard that was. So I tried to approach this logically. The mere act of thinking, feeling, I existed, didn't I? Surely that meant there was something more waiting beyond this oppressive darkness. Maybe this was just a transitional phase, a stepping stone to something greater. I recalled the words of a wise mystic about the dark night of the soul, a spiritual trial meant to lead one closer to divine unity. Could it be that what I was going through was akin to that, a deep purification before I could truly connect with the divine? That thought offered a flicker of solace. Rather than viewing my situation as punishment, maybe it was an invitation to examine my life, my beliefs, my very purpose. So I resolved to use this time, if such a concept even existed anymore, for profound introspection. If this was indeed my dark night, I would confront it with bravery and sincerity. I began to scrutinize every corner of my existence, each belief I had nurtured, every action I'd undertaken. It was a painful, yet enlightening journey. I unearthed truths about myself that I hadn't fully grasped before. There were parts of my life that I really tried to overlook or even deny altogether. I recognized those masks I wore, those excuses I crafted to justify my failures. And honestly, I couldn't ignore the times when my faith felt more like a show rather than something I genuinely believed in. Yet amidst all that introspection, there was also this warmth in my heart. I remembered those rare moments of true compassion, the instances when I actually lived out the teachings of Christ. My journey, with all its ups and downs, was undeniably beautiful and complex, filled with contradictions that painted a vivid picture of what it means to be human. As I dug deeper into my thoughts and feelings, I began sensing something shifting within me. The weight of the darkness that had enveloped me felt a little lighter, almost less intimidating. Silence, which used to send chills down my spine, started to feel more like a blank canvas brimming with potential. I was unsure about what lay ahead, but for the first time in ages, I felt a genuine sense of peace. It was like I was finally ready to embrace the uncertainty and welcome whatever the universe, God, or destiny had in store for me. In that moment of acceptance, something remarkable unfolded. The shadowy atmosphere around me, still there, transformed into something more alive. I can't find the right words to capture it. It's as if the darkness had taken on a rhythmic, almost living essence. This tiny shift marked the beginning of a new chapter in my journey after everything I had endured. The anxiety and fear that once gripped me receded, replaced by a profound curiosity and an eagerness to understand more about myself and my experiences. So I started to revisit my life, not from a place of fear and judgment, but with a genuine thirst for understanding. I saw myself as a bright-eyed child, filled with wonder and joy as I explored the world. Then I pictured my teenage years, wrestling with all those insecurities and searching for my identity. Then came the memory of falling in love with Sophia. In those formative years when I began to hear the call to nursing and ministry. Each recollection now felt enriched with meaning. Every choice, each relationship, and every hurdle I faced played a role in shaping who I am today. I remembered the joyful moments, the births of my children, the lives I touched as a nurse, and the comfort I could offer as a pastor. But alongside that, I couldn't overlook the painful memories and setbacks. I thought about the times I let my family down, the patients I couldn't save, and those lonely crises of faith I endured quietly. During my journey of self-exploration, I stumbled upon a profound realization that had escaped me for far too long. I had never learned to love myself. It hit me like a sudden flash of lightning, sudden and illuminating. For years, I had poured my heart into loving those around me, actively engaging with my community, and adhering to the teachings of my faith. Yet amidst all that devotion, I had overlooked myself entirely. As I reflected on my life, I recognized how this absence of self-love permeated every corner of my existence. I had become a relentless seeker of approval, constantly measuring my worth against others, and drowning in self-criticism over every misstep. My quest to embody righteousness had made me forget a fundamental message embedded in Jesus' teachings. Love your neighbor as yourself. How could I extend genuine love to others if I didn't even extend it to myself? Although this insight stung, it also felt like a breath of fresh air. It was as if a heavy burden had been lifted off me, more than just physical weight. It lifted the shackles from my spirit. In that moment, I realized that loving myself wasn't an act of selfishness, but a natural extension of the love I had always preached about. A wave of compassion rushed over me as I considered all the instances where I had been overly critical, where I refused to forgive myself, and where I relentlessly chased perfection. For the first time, I dared to see myself through the eyes of the divine, not as a flawed being endlessly striving for worthiness, but as a cherished creation, inherently valuable just by existing. This shift in perspective sparked a sense of growth within me. I felt my consciousness expand, breaking down the walls I had unknowingly built around myself. In that moment of broadening awareness, I sensed a connection not only with myself, but also with something profoundly larger, something transcending my individuality. Amid this newfound clarity, I noticed that the heaviness I felt around me was dissipating. Although shadows still trod nearby, there was a soft, nearly invisible light beginning to shine within me. As I contemplated this flicker of hope, I grasped that my journey was just unfolding. I had no idea what lay ahead, but for the first time since entering this transitional phase, I felt fully prepared to embrace whatever came next. At first, darkness felt like a terrifying abyss, but eventually, it transformed into something intimately nurturing, like a cosmic womb ready to help me start anew. Embracing self-love, I realized I was prepared for this rebirth. Just as I started to grasp deep insights about myself and felt a gentle light flicker within, an unexpected sensation washed over me. To my left, I sensed a presence forming. It wasn't as if I could see it in the usual way. After all, I didn't exactly have eyes anymore. Instead, it was like an electric awareness, an understanding that I was no longer isolated in this endless expanse. This presence felt distinctly masculine, yet it lacked a tangible shape. It seemed woven from the very darkness that surrounded me, but there was something undeniably more substantial about it. A mix of emotions flooded through me: surprise, curiosity, and a twinge of unease. Strangely, beneath all that, I felt an unsettling yet deep sense of familiarity. Although I couldn't make out any facial features or a concrete form, there was something reminiscent about it, as though I had known it from a distant dream that had long faded from memory. Before I could fully grasp this phenomenon, I received an impression rather than actual words. It was like my thoughts intertwined with this presence's essence, conveying emotions and ideas that were beyond speech. "You won't be here forever," came its comforting message. The simplicity of those words triggered a profound wave of relief throughout me. If I still had physical form, I might have collapsed in gratitude. The anxiety that had clung to me regarding my fate began to dissolve, as ephemeral as morning dew under the sun. This presence didn't reveal its identity. Was it an angel, a spirit guide, or perhaps something even greater? It didn't matter much. There was an undeniable authority in its essence, a certainty that left no space for doubt. A deep calm settled around me as if the presence itself emanated tranquility, washing away the last shreds of fear that had lingered in my being. For the very first time since entering this post-death experience, I felt genuinely secure. Our communication didn't flow through words, but rather through rich impressions filling my mind. I came to realize that all the moments I had endured, the darkness, the solitude, those heavy reflections, had been essential to my journey. Everything had led me right to this moment, this understanding. It felt like a cleansing experience, a way to break down and rebuild who I was. Initially, I had thought of the darkness as a type of punishment, but in reality, it turned out to be a realm filled with endless opportunities. It reminded me of a blank slate where I could recreate my narrative without the constraints and past conditioning that had been a part of my life. The presence I felt made it clear that my journey was entirely my own, just as every soul takes a distinct path after they pass on. There's no universal guideline or set route that everyone has to follow. Instead, we all craft our own post-life reality shaped by our beliefs, expectations, and how much we've grown spiritually during our time on Earth. This insight was both liberating and a bit intimidating. On one hand, I realized I had more say in my destiny than I had thought. On the other, it came with the weight of greater responsibility. Sensing my uncertainty, the presence reached out again, almost soothingly, saying, "There's no need to be afraid. You are not on this path alone." Hearing this, I felt a profound bond, not just with the source beside me, but with a larger essence that seemed to envelop everything. For a brief moment, I could almost sense the intricate web of life connecting every soul in creation, a truly incredible feeling. Then, just as softly as it had arrived, the presence began to shift. The darkness around me didn't change with footsteps or movements, but felt like a change in the heaviness surrounding me. It dawned on me that it was time to move forward on my journey. Although I didn't know exactly where I was headed, I felt a new clarity and assurance that I wasn't alone, which made me feel equipped to confront whatever awaited. As we traveled through the shadowy space, that faint light I'd glimpsed earlier was becoming more pronounced. It didn't originate from a particular spot. Rather, it seemed to infuse the entire environment, almost as if the darkness was evolving into luminous energy. With both excitement and reverence, I braced myself for the next chapter of my experience beyond death, fully aware that whatever lay ahead would profoundly reshape my understanding of existence itself, life, death, and everything in between. As the guiding presence helped me navigate through the darkness, I perceived a gradual change in my surroundings. The once overwhelming shadow began to fade. A warm, gentle glow began to emerge around me, a sign that something profound was unfolding. At first, it was almost imperceptible, like the early light of dawn just hinting that night was surrendering to a new day. But as we moved forward, though honestly, it felt more like we were drifting than actually progressing, the illumination intensified. What truly fascinated me was the hue of this light. It wasn't the stark white I typically associated with the idea of light at the end of the tunnel, often mentioned in near-death experiences. No, it was a deep, vibrant purple, almost alive, pulsing with energy. As I took in this incredible sight, the presence beside me nudged my awareness with a thought: take a closer look. Focusing intently on the purple glow, I began to see something remarkable. Delicate filaments of energy wove themselves within that violet light. Some glimmered softly in pink, while others radiated a warm yellow. These threads intertwined in intricate shifting patterns that captivated me. It was like a cosmic tapestry in the process of creation. Each glow held meaning, prompting me to wonder, what did these threads signify? Lives, souls, destinies? In a sense, the masculine presence answered my silent queries. What you see is the fabric of humanity. Those words vibrated through my very core, instilling an understanding that far transcended mere intellect. It dawned on me that I was glimpsing the interwoven essence of every soul in the universe. Every single filament represented a life, whether it was in the past, present, or yet to come. The pink strands seemed to pulse with feelings, love, kindness, and joy, while the golden ones sparked with thoughts and creativity. All were elegantly intertwined, crafting a breathtaking pattern beyond words. I realized then that no thread existed in isolation within this grand design. Each life touched countless others, just like the ripples made when a stone is thrown into a still pond. This was a staggering revelation for me. I had often stressed how essential it is to love one another and to understand the impact of our actions on those around us. However, witnessing this profound truth materialize so vividly right before my eyes was an experience unlike any other. Every little act of kindness or a comforting word I've shared throughout my life created these beautiful waves in a larger tapestry. But then, I couldn't ignore the moments when I let anger take over or judge too harshly. Those instances disrupted the harmony a bit, didn't they? Still, this realization came without any judgment. It felt more like an insight, a gentle reminder that everything is linked together. Each person contributes uniquely to this grand cosmic orchestra. While I mulled over this revelation, something even more mind-blowing caught my attention. I realized that these threads of light connected not just where we are, but also where we've been and where we're headed. It was like seeing how past actions ripple into our current lives, influencing what lies ahead. And here's the really strange part. I sensed that choices I hadn't even made yet were stirring up waves in this interconnected web. There was this calming presence next to me, just letting me soak it all in without a single word. It felt timeless. I couldn't tell if I was there for just a moment or for what felt like ages. Time as I'd known it just vanished. Slowly, I felt my awareness stretching. It was as though I was merging with this cosmic web, becoming part of something so much bigger. I could feel the ties that connected me to every other soul, those I had known, and even ones I hadn't yet encountered. It was this incredible sense of belonging, so intense that I felt like I was melting into that radiant purple light. For a brief moment, I wasn't me anymore. I was simply part of the web, the light, the connection itself. Then, as if sensing I needed grounding, that gentle masculine presence guided me back to myself. Not with words, but through a soft, ethereal touch that nudged me back into my individual identity. When I found my footing again, I knew something profound had shifted within me. This newfound understanding was something I couldn't just shake off or forget. It felt like emerging from a deep dream into a reality far more magnificent than I could have ever imagined. And then, that presence communicated with me once more. Now you see. But your journey is not yet over. In that moment, I realized I was on the brink of a new chapter in my experience beyond this life. What awaited me? I had no idea. But one thing was clear. I was ready for whatever came next, knowing it would transform my understanding of who I truly was and where I fit into this incredible tapestry of existence. While I was still processing the enormity of what I had just experienced, the shared essence of humanity and the bonds connecting us all, I sensed a subtle change in the atmosphere. There was this strong, guiding presence that had led me up to this moment, and it felt like it was preparing for something significant. Your time here is drawing to a close, I sensed from it, not through spoken words, but as a vivid impression in my mind. A wave of emotions surged through me. Part of me felt a deep sadness at the thought of leaving this elevated state, this profound connection with everything around me. Yet at the same time, there was this bubbling excitement, like something crucial was about to unfold. This experience, this knowledge you've gained isn't the end, the present seemed to assure me. It's just a peek into the truth of our being. Now, it's time for you to go back. Back? I was taken aback by that idea. Back where? To the shadows? To, well, reality? Before I could even sort through those questions, I felt a tremendous force wrapping around me. It was almost as if reality itself was morphing around me. Colors, purple, golden, pink, swirled together, dissolving into chaotic energy. I tried desperately to cling to the insights and visions I had, but it felt like grasping at water slipping through my fingers. I was being pulled, swept along by this unseen current that I couldn't resist. The last thought I registered from that presence was a gentle command. Remember. Then everything shifted in an instant. It hit me like plunging into frigid water. Suddenly, I was bombarded with physical sensations, pain, cold, heaviness. After experiencing what felt like an eternity in a spiritual realm, the return to the physical world was a harsh jolt. I opened my eyes, this time truly aware of my body, and was immediately blinded by an intense white light. Blinking multiple times, I strived to regain my focus. Slowly, I started to see outlines, a white ceiling, walls, the rhythmic beeping of machines. The pain was excruciating, my head pounded as if it might shatter. Breathing felt like climbing a mountain, an immense effort. I attempted to move my arms and legs, but they felt like lead weights. Gradually, reality started to sink in. I was in a hospital. I was breathing. Around me, voices began to filter in, initially muffled but growing clearer. "Doctor, he's coming to! Mr. Park! Mr. Park, can you hear me?" I tried to respond, but my throat was parched. All I could manage was an unsteady grunt. A nurse came into view, her expression a blend of worry and relief. "James Park, please don't speak right now. You're in a hospital, you had a brain aneurysm. We stabilized you, and honestly, it's a miracle you're still here. Miracle." That word reverberated in my mind, stirring up fragments of a surreal experience. There was darkness, a presence. The essence of humanity itself felt so distant, like remnants of a dream that dissipate upon waking. As the days passed, I learned more about what had occurred. Sophia had discovered me unconscious in the kitchen and quickly called for help. They rushed me into surgery, where an emergency procedure addressed the aneurysm. I'd spent nearly a week in a coma. The medical team talked in terms like clinical death and resuscitation, regarding me as a remarkable case, an example of human resilience, they said, and a stroke of luck. But I sensed there was so much more to my experience. As I regained my strength, vivid memories began to surface. This wasn't just a dream or something my mind conjured up in distress. It was a palpable reality, even more substantial than the hospital I lay in. While my body battled to heal, I grappled with the weight of integrating this profound insight into my daily life. How could I go back to normal after experiencing such a glimpse into the universe's essence? What could I say to those around me about what I had gone through? More importantly, how would I navigate life with this newfound awareness? The presence had instructed me to remember, but remember what? And to what end? These questions swirled relentlessly in my thoughts, yet one thing stood out clearly. My journey had only just begun. Returning to life wasn't the conclusion, it was the start of something new. So there I lay in that hospital bed, enveloped by machines and faces full of concern, bracing myself for the ultimate challenge, living an ordinary existence while carrying the weight of the extraordinary. The following weeks after waking felt like a blend of physical reality and profound introspection. My body faced the tough climb of recovery from the ordeal of the aneurysm and surgery, while my spirit wrestled with the need to process this extraordinary experience that had unfolded. The journey back to health was grueling and often frustrating. Starting over was no easy task. I found myself having to reacquaint with skills I once performed effortlessly. It was a strange experience, relearning how to walk, articulate my thoughts, and manage those little movements of my hands. Every time I made a bit of progress, my family and medical team would celebrate like I'd won a championship. But honestly, to me, these little victories felt minor next to the vast journey I had just been through. Sophia was a constant presence during this challenging time. She was like a warm light guiding me through the darkness. She quickly picked up on the changes in me. "There's something different about your eyes," she remarked on one occasion. "It's almost like you're perceiving things beyond what we see." And she was right. Although I was back in the physical realm, a part of me remained in that strange, purple-lit space where I felt connected to something larger. At times, I would gaze at the people around me, the doctors, nurses, and visitors, and I could almost visualize shimmering strands of light linking them together. It was a strange echo of the interconnectedness of humanity I had glimpsed during my experiences. As I grew stronger, I began to share bits and pieces of my journey with Sophia and a few close friends. Their responses varied widely. Some listened with intrigue, while others greeted my revelations with skepticism. A few suggested that all I had experienced might just be a byproduct of my brain scrambling due to lack of oxygen. For those with strongly held beliefs, the parts of my story that didn't fit neatly into their doctrines were unsettling. Yet regardless of their opinions, the truth of my experience resonated deeply within me. It was more than just images or memories. It had woven itself into my very being, reshaping how I viewed the world. One profound shift for me revolved around love and connection. Previously, I thought of love as something that flowed from one person to another, like water pouring out of one cup into another. However, my experience reshaped that understanding. I began to see love as the intricate fabric that brings us all together, much like the cosmic web I had witnessed. This new outlook significantly transformed my relationships. With Sophia, I found an intimacy I hadn't known was possible. It felt like understanding my own essence allowed me to truly see and appreciate hers. With my children, the patience and understanding I used to struggle with blossomed into something richer. Each conversation and moment we shared turned into something precious, something I hadn't fully grasped before. Even my professional life, where I served as both a nurse and a pastor, experienced a significant shift. The months rolled by, and slowly I found my way back to the routine of life. I went back to my job at the church and the hospital, but everything felt different now. It was as if a fresh lens had been placed over my eyes. Each conversation, every choice I made carried the weight of a new understanding, an understanding that blossomed from my near-death experience. When I think back to that journey, it blows my mind how much it shifted my view of self-love. I had spent so much time caring for others, feeling a genuine compassion for my patients and churchgoers. But now it hit me. My own relationship with myself needed attention. I started practicing self-care like I'd never done before. Forgiving my own mistakes and embracing my flaws became part of my daily routine. And you know what? Loving myself helped me pour more love into others. It was like unlocking a new level in my heart. My spiritual beliefs took a new shape as well. Sure, I still identified as a Christian, but the scope of my understanding widened immensely. I was uncovering connections among all belief systems, something that felt bigger than any single doctrine. But that evolution was a double-edged sword. Some folks in my congregation were taken aback by this shift towards a more universal approach to faith. They were uncomfortable with my ideas about spiritual unity and how we're all intertwined. Yet on the flip side, many others found solace and inspiration in this new outlook, paving the way for a broader, more inclusive faith. In the beginning, I shared my experiences through small community gatherings. It was cathartic for me, and as I spoke about the lessons I had gleaned, something amazing happened. News of my talks began to spread. Soon, I was receiving invitations to larger seminars and conferences, which was thrilling and a bit daunting. I even took a leap and wrote a book titled Beyond the Light, A Journey Through the Fabric of Existence. To my astonishment, it resonated with so many readers and became a bestseller. I was overwhelmed with messages from people who told me my story had changed their lives, igniting in them a sense of purpose and connection to the world around them. Yet, despite all the triumphs, the journey wasn't without its challenges. There were moments when I felt that familiar weight of self-doubt creeping in. But each hurdle reminded me of the deeper truths I had discovered. There were times when I felt a chill of uncertainty, moments when my everyday life seemed worlds apart from that expansive vision I had glimpsed. Some days, doubt crept in, leaving me to ponder if it had all been a vivid illusion, maybe a trick of my mind yearning for oxygen. In those times of doubt, I often recalled the last message I received. Remember. It wasn't just about holding on to the specifics of that experience, it was about grasping the core insights I had gained. Things like how deeply interconnected we all are, the crucial need for love, both for ourselves and for others, and the false barriers we build that separate us. Years have passed since that life-altering moment, and I still uncover new meanings in the rich tapestry of my journey. Each day offers a fresh chance to embrace those lessons, to view life through that cosmic lens. The transformation I have undergone is extraordinary. I've stepped away from my role as a conventional pastor to establish a welcoming spirituality center. Here, individuals from all backgrounds, or those without any beliefs, can dive into the big questions about life, purpose, and our connections to one another. Still very much immersed in nursing, my focus has shifted toward integrative medicine and holistic practices. My partner, Sophia, and I have become a team not only in our personal life, but also in our work, teaming up on initiatives that encourage compassion and understanding among diverse cultures. Our kids have charted their own courses in life, but I take comfort in knowing that they carry the vital lessons of love and togetherness learned from my journey. Reflecting on it all, I realized that what I went through wasn't just a near-death encounter, it was a rebirth. I didn't just survive, I transformed in mind and spirit. I emerged with a profound new perspective on my role in the universe and my life's purpose. The image of humanity's intricate web remains with me, influencing how I perceive the world around me. I notice this interconnectedness everywhere, in the way a simple act of kindness can send ripples through many lives, how every action shapes our environment, and how small moments of shared joy can connect strangers. I've come to understand that death isn't something to dread. It's merely a passage, part of the natural flow of existence. Embracing this truth has liberated me from many of my old fears and anxieties. Living more in the moment has changed my entire outlook on life. I've come to cherish every single experience, whether it's a simple moment, a meaningful conversation, or even a tough challenge. They all serve as stepping stones for growth, connection, and adding to the wonderful weave of existence. Now, I'm not claiming to have all the insights figured out. A key lesson I've picked up is the importance of embracing uncertainty. It's okay to admit that we don't have all the answers. Honestly, the universe is far too vast for our minds to fully grasp, and there's something beautifully freeing about being open to all that we don't know. If I could share just one thought drawn from my journey, it would be this: we are part of something far beyond ourselves. Each individual, including you, is like a unique and irreplaceable thread in the grand tapestry of life. Our feelings, actions, and those little gestures of kindness, everything we do sends ripples through that tapestry, impacting the whole in ways beyond what we can even begin to imagine. So I urge you to live consciously, love fiercely, both yourself and those around you. Show kindness, because every person you encounter has their own struggles brewing beneath the surface. Embrace forgiveness. It not only liberates others, but also lightens your own heart. Always keep in mind that you matter, you are cherished, and you form a vital part of the incredible mystery that is life. As my journey unfolds, I realize there's still so much on the horizon to explore and learn. I now approach each day not with dread, but with awe and thankfulness. Every moment is a chance to contribute my own thread to this expansive tapestry, to add my tune to the cosmic melody of living. So I wrap this up not as a conclusion, but rather as a fresh start. Life, as I've discovered, is a continuous cycle of rebirth and exploration. Each of us holds the ability to mold our realities, broaden our minds, and play our part in this extraordinary evolution of humanity that unites us all. If you found this heartfelt reflection inspiring, I'd love it if you liked this video, shared your thoughts in the comments, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you won't miss any new updates. Let's keep spreading this message far and wide. Until next time.